has been the highest honor, He-Man, and it has been, and always will be, a joy for me to call you my friend.
Greetings, good brothers and good sisters. Taking a look at the new Masters of the Universe Origins Sorceress figure by Mattel today. Castle Grayskull may have been a spooky place for the heroes of Eternia to call home, but what's one way to soften the horrifying image of the dark and somber sanctuary of He-Man? Well, put an angel in it. This figure is now available at Big Bad Toy Store. If you want to let them know I sent you, use the link in the video description, and they included this nifty sticker too. Use it as a racing decal on your vintage vehicles. The Road Ripper is now sponsored by BBTS. And while I'm giving shoutouts, I want to mention Marine Toys for Tots in the US. Christmas may be 5 months away, but these gyrenes are on a very important all-year-long mission. Want to be their reinforcements? Visit toysfortots.org to donate a toy or make a donation. Don't wait till December. Do good now and help these Semper Fi soldiers help kids create cherished childhood memories of heroes like the Sorceress of Grayskull. I'll give you a good look at the figure on card for those keeping it MOC. Fits in perfectly with the vintage Masters figures. And not as hard on the bank account. Some shots of the other figures available. And a look at some of the play features. Extending wings and twist into powerful battle positions. Twist. Is that a new word we're using now instead of pose? Artwork is beautiful, depicting the Sorceress as champion and the incoming Horde invasion into Castle Grayskull. And some paperwork. A diagram of what's detachable on the figure. And a comic featuring Jitsu, who didn't get much screen time in the old Filmation series. 1 episode to be exact. So nice to see him be the focus of one of these mini-comics. There are a few figures I can't stand. This isn't one of them. This is straight out of the package with no futzing. Twist her a bit, and she's even more steady. This is one of the figures I can't stand. Vintage 86 Sorceress won't stand without a figure stand. Something's gone haywire with the rubber leg band inside and I can't twist it back into proper position. I've been meaning to replace the original band for a while, so I might as well do that now. When you're replacing these bands, hope you have more luck than I did and the rubber nubs on the ends don't break off. If they do, all you'll need to get them out is a hairdryer, small needle nose pliers, a drill, and a bit of swearing, which is why I've cut that part out. Oh, and you'll need a replacement band too. I used one from Amos Del Retro. Works great. Just a tiny bit loose, probably because it's a female figure, and a tad smaller than the male ones, but leagues better than the old one that was in there. I can actually stand this figure now. Here's a look at the staffs. The Origins actually has less detail than the original. Vintage one has more feather etching on the end of the staff, while the Origins version is smooth. Maybe going for an animation look. Very similar, but not a direct recast. Just about the same length, the Origins is a tad longer. Origins version isn't overly floppy. A bit of give, but it isn't bent or warped like a lot of vintage He-Man toys are due to extremely bendy plastic they used. The vintage figure's arms only bend at the shoulder, and with the way they positioned her hand, she can only hold the staff out to the side like this. If you try to push the staff all the way to the ground, you risk breaking this hand, which just has a hole in it. The thumb and fingers are joined. Not an issue with the new version though. The articulation in the shoulder, elbow, and wrists allows you to twist the staff into many different battle positions. Another big improvement over the original is the hips. These vintage legs keep looking like they want to pop out of their hip sockets. Boots are the same, aside from Origins having visible joints. And a look at the feathers on the back. Origins went with a duller finish for the blue tips, while the vintage has glossy tips. The Origins wings can be moved down into a closed position and opened back up. And the vintage one can move down too. Hey, that actually locked into place. How do you release it now? Like that, I guess. Neat. so the spring-loaded wings are missing on the Origins version. And a look at the heads from the side. And from the front. My Origins figure has some schmutz on her nose. Hopefully I can get it off with some rubbing alcohol. My vintage one has some paint damage on her face, and even then it was way too expensive. It's one of the more expensive vintage He-Man figures, and this one didn't even come with a staff. So if you don't have any Sorceress figure, you're missing out on nothing if you skip the vintage one and get the Origins version instead. I noticed some paint detailing on her face which I didn't want to damage with rubbing alcohol, so I ended up just gently scratching the nose schmutz off with my thumbnail. Much better. In addition to the very glittery, glimmery gold paint used on her forehead, there's a very subtle sparkle on her cheeks, almost like she's wearing makeup. Unlike the vintage version, whose head and body are all one piece, the Origins version has a separate head, although it doesn't move much because the wings get in the way. And with the extra articulation, she can hold the staff with 2 hands, although you can't point her head in the same direction that she's pointing the staff. And here's a side-by-side on the spinner. And a close-up of the head. I prefer the lighter blue eyes on the Origins version, and the face sculpt in general. Alongside some other heroines of Eternia, a vintage Teela, and Super 7's vintage-style She-Ra, another figure that can't stand worth a dang. And with another vintage Sorceress figure, I guess, Zoar, her falcon form whenever she leaves Castle Grayskull. And final comparison is with the white Sorceress figure that came with the Origins Castle Grayskull. Exact same figure, just with different colors. And since the new Sorceress is a recolor of the white Sorceress, she's got the same problem. Her wings stop her from sitting all the way on the throne in Grayskull, unless you mash the wings in there. Looks just fine standing in front of the chair though. The Sorceress isn't the kind to be sitting down on the job while Skeletor is threatening Eternia anyways. This one's a lot like Scareglow. If you've been missing it from your collection due to price, this is a much more affordable version, brand new, with some improvements to boot, but not so much that it won't blend in perfectly with other vintage figures. Thanks for watching. Till next time, enjoy your toys. Thanks to the Patreon tribe for supporting the channel. Warm welcome to our newest member, Kelly. And since it's been too long since I've done this, I'm going to name every single Patreon tribe member. Thank you, Adam, John, Alex, Ali Devil, Andre, Anthony, Ashley, Audie, Avery, Badger Wolf Prime, Bear, Bill, Bob, Bobby, Brandon, Brian, Budrick, Cameron, Carl, Carlos, Carson, Casey, Chris, Christian, Christopher, and Christopher, Dane, David, Derek, Dominic, Drew, Edlin, Eric, Ford Lover 68, Gaz, G Wonder, Gerald, Gold Any Ranger, Greg, Hans, Hubert, Jack, Jason, Jay, Jace, John, Jonathan and Randa, Joseph, Joshua, Judson, the aforementioned Kelly, Krishna, Lee, Linda, Logan, Luke, Mark, Mate, Matt, Matthew, Maddie, Melvor, Micah, Michael, Mr. Tin Min Pin, Nathan, Nevitz, Nick, Ninja, Obi, Paul, Quanoman, Quincy, Ray, Road Warrior Max, Robert, Robin, Royce, Scorpio, Scott, Slick, Sean, Stephanie, Steven, Steve, Awesome Steve Glosson, Stray Fox, Stuart, The Iron Lords Podcast, Thomas, Tim, TJ, Tom Ericus, Tunu, Tristan, Vince, Wesley, and ZZ Funk. And thank you to all the channel panel members for hitting the join button and showing off those custom emojis. Big Josh, Micah, MC DJ, ACDC, Gaz, Marcus, Dave, Armar Deep, Doug, 80s Toy Nostalgia, Dynamite 80s Toys, Trevor, Stephanie, Tom Eric, Scott, Steve, and Tim. Thank you all so much for supporting my work.